Cthulhu Christmas presents H.P. Lovecraft's Beyond the Wall of Sleep. A quick review. Beyond the Wall of Sleep was written in the spring of 1919. It first appeared in the October 1919 edition of Pine Cones, an amateur journal, and later in the October 1934 edition of Fantasy Fan. It did not appear in Weird Tales until March 1938, a year after Lovecraft's death. The unnamed hero of the story was an intern at a state psychopathic hospital. In the winter of 1900 to 1901, he encounters Joe Slater, or Slater, a degenerate Catskill decadent, judged insane after brutally murdering another rustic. Slater, who presents an, quote, absurd appearance of harmless stupidity, had, quote, always been considered strange in the eyes of his primitive associates on account of his wild talk and, in the words of an H.P. Lovecraft Encyclopedia, quote, strange cosmic visions. 3 days after his arrival at the asylum, the previously docile Slater has a violent attack, is restrained by 4 orderlies, and put in a straitjacket. As part of the attack, Slater delivers a 15-minute rant in his debased patois, quote, debased patois, in which he describes, according to the Wikipedia article on the story, quote, green edifices of light, oceans of space, strange music in shadowy mountains and valleys. But most of all did he dwell upon some mysterious, blazing entity that shook and laughed and mocked at him. This vast, vague personality seemed to have done him a terrible wrong, and to kill it in revenge was his paramount desire. In order to reach it, he would soar through emptiness, burning every obstacle that stood in his way. End of quote. The older members of the asylum staff are perplexed at how a degenerate illiterate who had never been exposed to fairy tales could come by such otherworldly visions. In college, the hero had developed a two-way device to transmit telepathic communications, as he believed thought a form of radiant energy. Wishing to learn the source of Slater's visions, he decides to experiment on the patient, his efforts spurred on by the realization that his subject is dying. Then, as Slater is about to expire, he succeeds. From Wikipedia, quote, with the device switched on, he received a message from a light being whose experiences had been what were transmitted through Slater's medium. This being explained that, when not shackled to their physical bodies, all humans are light beings. The thought message went on to explain that, as light beings within the realm of sleep, humans can experience the vistas of many planes and universes, which remain unknown to waking awareness. End of quote. The light being had been trapped in Slater's body, and was freed by his death, and was now able to pursue its final battle with its enemy. It tells the hero to watch the skies near Algol, the demon star, and on the night after Slater's death, February 22nd, 1901, astronomers observe a bright new star near Algol, a star that fades out over the coming months. The inspiration for the story seems to have been an April 27th, 1919 article in the New York Tribune about the decadent denizens of the Catskills, a story that even mentions a family called the Slaters. The story actually ends with a direct quotation from Garrett P. Service's 1908 book, Astronomy with the Naked Eye. Apparently, on February 22nd, 1901, the star G.K. Percy appeared, only to fade in the coming months. Did the light being get his revenge on his hated enemy after all? Lovecraft loved astronomy, his favorite science. Other potential inspirations were the Ambrose Bierce ghost story, Beyond the Wall, a yarn I'm not familiar with. Another is the Jack London novel, Before Adam, which contains the line, quote, "Nor did any of my humankind break through the wall of my sleep," end of quote. But there's no evidence that Lovecraft ever read it. I like this story for its connection to the Catskills, scene of The Lurking Fear, one of my favorite early Lovecraft yarns. In addition, the interns' cosmic radio reminds me of Crawford Tillinghast's Strange Machine in From Beyond, another of my favorites. The primary source for today's video was the Wikipedia article on Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I liked the way it summarized the story. My other main source was the entry on the yarn in an H.P. Lovecraft Encyclopedia. My rating? 4 Joe Slaters out of 5. But what do you think, dear listeners? If you've read the story, what's your rating? Another question. Is this story horror or science fiction? If you haven't read today's story, I put links to it in the description. Let's celebrate Cthulhu Christmas early by reading Lovecraft stories in chronological order. And till midnight, Cthulhu Fatagan! Cthulhu Fatagan!